Good morning. I'm Mark Allen with Gaber.io, and I'm here today with Heather Townsend, the COO of EvenHealth. Good afternoon, Heather. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I've noticed the East Coast got some bad weather this week. Is it still bad there?
Yeah, it's been raining all week, but I guess working remotely inside, it's not too bad.
Yeah, not too
Have
bad.
some good
So,
lighting.
well,
Yeah.
if you want sunshine, you can come out to California, but you got to
Oh,
deal with a little bit of smoke out here.
I'd love to come out there.
Well, we can talk about that later. It's beautiful out here. So, to
Yeah.
start with, can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Sure. So I'm Heather Townsend, COO of EvenHealth. I'm from the Washington, D.C. metro area, and EvenHealth is a mental resilience startup focused in preventative mental health care. I guess a lot of us can describe life pre and post COVID. So pre-COVID, I was in the e-discovery industry, or maybe to others known as legal technology. I was working there for about 8 years with through various roles. Mostly my tenure was at a government contract firm before starting my own entrepreneurial venture during that time. And during COVID, I transitioned to accept a role with EvenHealth, which has been a great learning and growth opportunity for me. So really excited about it.
Cool. And how long ago did EvenHealth start?
EvenHealth was founded in 2019 by David Black. David and I met in business school, and it was kind of a part-time venture before we started to get the momentum to go, both of us to go full-time. And I officially started in August, but I've been working on it for some time now.
Oh, and there's a lot of that going around lately.
Yeah.
So, can you uh, tell us what your experience has been with remote employment, both as an employee, which you probably were before this, and now an employer?
Yes. So actually, as an employee, I government contract firm was 6 years. I had the flexibility to
Hmm.
work remote as much as I'd like, but that was something that wasn't granted automatically. It was an opportunity that I kind of had to earn and build that trust. And when I was a manager there, and I had a team of analysts, I ensured that they all had remote. Remote access and the ability to work remote, which was a little strange and not like really aligned with the culture, but it was important to me to give them that flexibility as they needed it. And I really think noticed it helped their productivity. But a lot of people were asking me, other managers, like, how do you trust your employees? How do you know they're working? And so I kind of ran into those questions a while back as a manager.
Oh, very, very good. And since it was a government contract, did they have to have special clearance or special security for that?
The laptops had to be, yeah, well, it wasn't on site. So there is a difference between contractors that are not necessarily on site at the government agencies, and those are a little bit different than what would be we were on site at with our company. So there's more security protocols that had to be followed, which made it more difficult and more expensive to have the laptops that could essentially be uh, taken home. So that did prove a little bit of a difficulty, but
Mm.
we made it work.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting, I would assume, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, since you allowed your employees to work remotely and other managers didn't. Did you have a lot of people that wanted to come work in your group?
Yes, yeah, actually, that is true. People ask how to come on your team, and that's how I did hire. Actually, one of my employees was like, "How do I work for you?" And I ended up hiring her. So funny you actually said that. I think a lot of it is, having the tools that your employees need is important to get rid of those barriers. And I think it shows to them that you care about their well-being by though they may seem like small efforts. If it's getting them 2 monitors to help them be more productive, then do that, right? It's worth that small amount is worth the trust and the relationship and the productivity that comes out of that.
Yes, I would agree. Actually, in my experience, most employees want to do well, and they actually those little things actually make a difference. That they actually will go above and beyond what you'd expect. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I find it surprising. To me, it just seems like the natural, oh, you have to take care of your employees. But I've noticed a lot of managers don't always have that mindset. And I think people that are managers sometimes fall into that role as a manager because they were such great individual contributors
Hmm.
and they excelled at that. But that doesn't translate directly to being stellar people managers. There's other skills they need to build. And sometimes that is not, those are harder to learn. They're soft skills, or people
Yeah.
discredit them. So
Absolutely. And actually, I've always said when you first become a manager, you learn quickly. You either manage up or you manage down. And I've always found that you're better off managing down, taking care of your people, and the rest will take care of itself. Not everybody
yeah,
agrees with that.
yeah, yeah. Definitely.
So, what do you think is the future of remote employment? Obviously, you're for it. And what do you think can be done differently to make it more effective?
Well, so I am for remote employment, but honestly, I would always prefer to be in the office. I didn't have too terrible of a commute, maybe 10 miles.
Mm,
So with DC traffic, really, really not bad compared to other people, but I enjoyed always being in the office. I think it has improved collaboration opportunities, that just going to get lunch, the interpersonal skills, the laughs that you have aren't quite the same over typing on,
true.
whatever medium.
Mm,
So but remote employment isn't going anywhere. Maybe there'll be some difference of uh, going back to the office part-time. I don't think we'll necessarily be this remote forever.
mm,
But it's something we all have to, I guess, live with and learn to adapt to. And I think with management skills, to that, no, you can't use the same tools you used in person. Even you have to
mm.
adapt and understand that you're going to have to put in different, like, think creatively or put in effort and be thoughtful of how to manage remotely your
Yes, no,
employees.
I agree. And I actually think it'll go back to a hybrid model. I think people
Yeah.
still want that person-to-person communication. You know, virtual happy hours just aren't the same over Zoom
Yeah.
as they are,
Yeah.
your work, right?
And I think it's a little bit of a like, when you have the choice to be remote and go in the office, that's great. But with COVID, there's no choice. You have
Right.
to be remote. And I think that choice is what is important to people and their happiness. And when you remove the choice of it, it's not quite have the
Yeah,
same
and
effect.
it's pretty much true of all things in life, I would
Yeah.
say. So, so what is the story behind EvenHealth? What, obviously you said you treat depression. How do you do that? Yeah, I would assume you have a lot of clients now. So, tell us what
Yeah.
it's about.
So EvenHealth, which was founded in 2019, is focused on counseling and preventative mental health care. We currently have one SIBR, Small Business Innovation Research contract with a DoD client. And our goal with that is to improve access to counseling and mental health resources when service members are remote or away from care. And that can be due to like a pandemic or just natural disasters also cause strain on people receiving care. And we're currently developing our commercial offering as well for employers to help their employees get preventative mental health care and counseling services. And we're currently researching the different technologies that can be used to that versus traditional Zoom-like platforms where there's Zoom fatigue when you're staring at yourself. That's not normal, really, if you think about it. You're not
I
normally
know.
having a mirror up, looking at yourself all the time. So there is a Zoom fatigue, and trying to see creative ways that we can have this remote experience that makes you feel like you're more in the same room, and looking at virtual reality as potentially a medium for that.
Yeah, no, and I agree. The Zoom part, full disclosure, I have a piece of paper covering me
Oh
right
yeah, I do that all the time. I put like a little sticky note because especially Microsoft Teams doesn't allow you to hide your own video, which is
Yeah,
crazy to me. I'm like,
yeah.
I can't. I only can turn it off, but I can't hide myself. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so because I'm on Zoom multiple hours per day, so you're right. I just put
Yeah.
a piece of paper over me.
Yeah, and it's just not you normally don't have that constant feedback of yourself. So we're trying to figure out ways of effectively mitigating that. So
Yeah,
it's really exciting, and because we all know Zoom is not, or virtual video conferencing isn't going away. So
yeah, I know, and it's funny because when you're seeing yourself all the time, you're more self-critical.
yeah.
So this way, I just literally concentrate on talking to you, and it's I might look goofy, but who cares?
No, I have a hard time watching like Zoom videos or like YouTube videos I've done of myself. I'm like, oh no, I like cringe if I have to like watch my video again over.
But
It's yeah, yeah.
you look great.
Oh,
You're
thank you.
doing wonderful. So it sounds like you're a very small company. So, and you started in August and really last year. So you started out as a remote company, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Wow. So you really didn't have a choice. Your previous companies? How did you incorporate the idea of remote in your previous company? Because there's that there's a certain group of people that you're right, that just like, no, I don't trust my people to not come in.
So when I've heard that, I think my response is, as a manager, if you don't trust your employees, you need to self-reflect and wonder what you can do differently to change
Mhm.
that. Um, so incorporating it now, I think it's asking, how am I doing? Like, we have an intern at EvenHealth, like, how are we doing of keeping you engaged? Because she's never had an office job. She's a senior at University of Maryland.
Mm.
And she says, like, some of her other, I guess, classmates with internships, she's like, oh, all they do is get an email once in a while and they're not engaged. And we have like Zoom calls with her a few times a week, but we give her a lot of flexibility to do her work as she will. And so says she's appreciative of that. So I think it's getting that feedback, asking what can I do better, and listening and being,
Mhm.
not shutting down that feedback, and questioning if the way you're doing things now is the best way. How engaged are your employees? And we're at EvenHealth trying to find time to meet in person, like conference space, like maybe once or twice a month, just
Mhm.
to get that FaceTime.
Yeah.
Because we did hire a developer, and we had never met him until, we made a point of meeting, and it's like, wow, we've never met in person. It's all been remote, and that's like the norm for a lot of people.
It is. And I thought it was nice that you mentioned that it's up to the manager to self-reflect, as opposed to, in olden days, the manager would be like, well, what's wrong with these people? It's
Yeah,
not me. Right.
yeah.
And I believe that remote has actually forced management to get their ducks in order,
Hmm.
because, you know, um, you have to know how to direct people when you're not seeing them every day.
Yes, and be creative about it sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, it is I wouldn't, it's a challenge, but maybe a good challenge for management in some ways for some people, but for other people, it's going to be a struggle, because not all managers, I think, are well equipped for this.
Yes.
So.
Well, and I will tell you, in technology, a lot of people become a manager because they're very good at technology, and
Mhm.
those are definitely different skills.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a big difference between writing Java code and managing a team of 10.
Exactly. Yes. And that's the same thing. Yeah. Individual contributor, great. And one like hard skill isn't the same as people skills. And that's, at least from what I've heard, a lot of people aren't taught when they become a manager. At least I wasn't when I first took it. It was like, here you go. Here's your team of like 11 people. Good luck. I
Yeah.
was like, what?
Yeah. Mm.
So it was learning as you go, and having to have like develop those and listening. And, but yeah, I really think management is the key to help improving remote work, like effectiveness and productivity.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of different webinars and conferences on that very thing right now. I know a few of them that have happened in the last 2-3 months. So the current pandemic really forced everybody to go remote in March. You're a small company, right?
Mhm.
But did that cause any, I mean, you started, you already was remote. Was there anything that caused like challenges that you didn't quite expect?
I think the meeting in person, we would have been meeting, because by like, we're in the DC area, like Baltimore, Annapolis, DC, like Washington, DC. So we could have met like sooner in person. It was just kind of like, is that really okay to make, if it's not, essential to have that meeting? So I think it would have had collaboration in person. More for us. I think we how do I say it, hasn't really impacted as much as other companies that had to
Right.
move from in person to remote.
And,
We're a little too small maybe for office space yet, like a full-time office space.
right. And how about with any of your customers? Has it caused any problems with that, or is that?
Yes, it has. Our client, it definitely has increased the need for us potentially, or looking at these options, where before they're like, the best sort of counseling is done in person. That mindset, and not just in mental health care, but any sort of like relationships with employers, and like what do you to say, like I'm tr- mentors and things of that nature. They always want to have it in person, and that
Right.
mindset was great. But now they realize, when you really can't do that, you have to come up with you have to consider other solutions, or
Yeah.
people aren't going to be receiving the care and help that they
Right.
need.
And when
So
they really need it the most, right? I mean, a lot of
yeah.
people do need this now.
So yeah, I think it improved our attractiveness to our clients, the current pandemic, unfortunately, for,
Yeah.
I guess,
Well,
other people.
some companies have seen an increase in business, and some have seen a decrease. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So finally, there's companies like Gabriel that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for startups. You're a startup, and you're at that early stage, so I don't think you're ready to start hiring developers from all over the world yet. But how important do you think that will be going forward when you do need to start scaling up and need to hire developers, that you can call someone and say, hey, I need 5 developers. Can we have them, next month?
Well, yeah, and I think there's just a lot of value in that. And when you think about, one question of that is the budgets, right? Now that companies don't have these real estate expenditures, they may have capital that they can spend to finding the stellar employees or on other resources they hadn't previously considered. So where are they using that capital, as well as the landscape is changing to remote, right? So people now, while things may go back to a hybrid, companies are more open to having remote employees because they had to move everyone remote and build that infrastructure. So there's definitely so many opportunities of what we would used to call an e-discovery, like playing the time zones. So it'd be great to have an analyst or an employee on like the West Coast, because then they could have the shifts that would cover more. So there's just a lot of there's advantages to that as well. So yeah, and I think scaling now for startups to get ahead, so you have to respond quickly. And my experience when hiring, sometimes it can take weeks, months to find somebody, or longer. It's like,
well, especially if you're looking for a very specific skill and then you need it. Now I talked to someone the other day that he needed a very specific skill, and there were like 20 people in the whole world that had that skill.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, now I can get, I can hire from anywhere.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be just in your city. And that also will impact, I guess, salaries too, where you don't have to pay necessarily the premium because someone lives in an expensive city.
Like San Francisco by chance?
Yeah. And I would say DC as well, but DC government's still here. So there will still be in person, I think, here more so than the impact. So be a little bit different climate in DC.
Yeah, the politicians seem to like that one-on-one.
Yeah, in person for sure.
Yeah, even though they're telling us not to,
but they're
We won't go there. Okay. Well, Heather, it's been great talking to you. This has been very fascinating. I have a feeling your company is going to do well, because I think there's going to be more and more people needing your services. And I want to thank you again, and have a great day.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Bye.
Bye.